Hi, Andrew here from GlaserTutoring.com, and today I would like to teach you how to use the Rational Zero Theorem to find the real zeros of a polynomial function. Now, let's talk about what the Rational Zero Theorem is quickly, because we're going to kind of use it, but not really, all right, because it's actually going to be a little bit of a waste of time. But let me just teach you what it says. So basically what the Rational Zero Theorem states is that if you find the factors of your constant term, in this case that's a negative 24, and you find the factors of your leading coefficient, which is the coefficient of the highest power of x, some fraction of those two will be a rational zero. So in other words, they call this the p-value. The factors of 24 will represent p, and the factors of your 2, the leading coefficient, will represent q. To find your rational zeros, then, you're going to take the p, the factors of your constant, and then divide it by the factors of the leading coefficient. So if I were to find the factors of 24, now don't worry about the negative part, because we're going to have both positive and negative factors here. So just think about 24 for the time being. So what are the factors of 24? Well, 1 and 24, right? You're thinking about two numbers that multiply, whole numbers that multiply to 24. You would also have 2 and then 12. Okay, how about 3? Sure, you'd have 3 and 8, right? And then you'd also have 4 and 6. So these are all of the these are all the factors. Now each of these comes with a plus minus, okay? This is fun. And then what we'd have to do is write down now the factors of the denominator, in the denominator, but of the leading coefficient here. So the factors of 2 are going to be basically just 1 and 2, right? And again, both positive and negative. So the idea now is that your rational zero, all right, is going to be, we might have a maximum of 3 rational zeros, okay, because it's a cubic. But basically what this theorem says is that maybe this is a rational zero when you take this p-value divided by that p-value. Or maybe this, when you take this one, 2 divided by 1, maybe that's a rational zero. Or this one, 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 or that one. And guess what? We're going to do the same thing. Or this, maybe 1/2, or maybe 1 again, or maybe 3/2, 1.5, right? And 4/2. This is going to get kind of nuts if you think about it, to try and use this theorem really to find the zeros. We're going to have to test these values out. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't necessarily want to do, how many are there? 16 tests, basically? Well, it'd actually be a little less, because if you're testing 1 and 1, that would be the same thing as 2/2, right? But in any case, there's going to be a whole lot of them. So we're not going to do that, all right? But I'm going to show you how this would work. So what I'm actually going to do to find the zeros now is I'm just going to cheat a little bit, quote unquote, and use the calculator. All right. You should know how to do this in the calculator. So just plug in your function. Watch 2x cubed, and then do plus 7x squared, minus 10x, and then minus 24. And then hit graph. Now, if you notice, this function here is going to cross the x-axis. So remember what it means by zeros, right? Zeros are going to be the values of x where the function crosses the x-axis here. So it looks like, if we were to kind of zoom in here a little bit, it looks like the function crosses right around -4, right? That looks like a -4. Each one of those tick marks represents a unit of 1. This looks like about maybe -1.5, right, or -3/2. And then this one looks like it's probably about +2. Okay, so we would have x is equal to -4, then we would have x is equal to -3/2, and then x is equal to 2. Now, I know you're going to say, well, I can't use my calculator. No problem, don't worry about it. Let's just get rid of this, okay? But what I'm going to try to show you now is that these zeros can be found by doing one of the divisions, or 3 of the divisions technically, in here. So how do we get a value of -4? Well, you can get a value of -4 one of 2 ways. You can get a value of negative 4. Well, actually, I guess technically one of 4 ways. Because, and maybe, yeah. So we could take the positive 4 and then divide it by the negative 1. Or you could have taken the negative 4 and then divided it by the positive 1. Or you could have taken the positive 2, divided it then by, what? Yeah, no, what am I doing? Then you could have taken, sorry, I got distracted with the 2. Then you could have taken the positive 8 and then divided it by the negative 2. Or you could have taken the negative 8 and then divided it by the positive 2. So 4 of these combinations would have given you the same value, right? These all would have given you a negative 4. So notice how, again, those particular combinations of the division would have given you a negative 4, and that is one of the real zeros. Okay, that is one of the real zeros. Okay, so that's how the rational theorem would have been used, right? You have to now, go about and check in here some possible combinations of those divisions. And again, the same thing for negative 3 halves, right? Negative 3 halves is going to show up one of 2 ways here, it appears. It's either going to show up with the negative 3 and positive 2, or the positive 3 and the negative 2. All right, and then similarly with the 2, right? Either going to have positive 2 over positive 1, negative 2 over negative 1, right? Or you can have the positive 4 over the positive 2 and the negative 4 over the negative 2. All right? So what you would have to do, so this is kind of what you would look to do now. I'm going to do one of the tests. So from the start, if you were to start from the beginning, 1 over 1, well, guess what? That isn't going to be a rational zero. Okay? So what you can do is you can use what's called the remainder theorem, and you can plug in these values into the function for x. And if that value, once you plug it in for x, gives you a value of 0, then you know it's going to be a 0, basically, of the function. Okay, because it produces a value of the function, it produces a 0 value. Fumbling over my words. What else is new? So let me show you here one that's going to work and one that's not going to work. So again, let's pretend you took, out of this combination of things, you took the positive 4 and the negative 1, and you're like, okay, great, that equals negative 4. I want to test this, see if this is a rational zero. So what you're going to use is you're going to invoke something then called the remainder theorem, which states that if you take this value and you plug it in, as I said before, for x, if this whole thing evaluates to 0, then you know that this is indeed a 0 of the function. So watch. 2 times the negative 4 cubed plus then 7 times negative 4 squared minus, careful, minus 10 times negative 4 minus then 24. So let's go to the calculator and let's just plug it in. So 2 parentheses negative 4 to the to the third. Man, how many mistakes am I going to make here? Plus 7, sorry, it's a little early, ladies and gentlemen. 546. Great. Minus then 10 times negative 4. Coffee hasn't fully set in yet. Minus then the 24. Oh, look, it came out to be 0, right? And that's what we expected. We saw from the graph that negative 4 was a 0. When we take then this negative 4 value, which is found by some combination of those values, and we plugged it in, we got a 0 overall, and that's known as the remainder theorem, meaning the remainder is 0. And whenever the remainder then is 0, we know that this is basically going to be, you can consider it a 0 then of the function, or you also would know the factor, because the factor would be x plus 4 then. All right? Now, what would happen if, let's say you chose an incorrect value, all right, and you were like, you know what, let me test 12 over 2. Positive 12 over 2. Okay, that's equal to 6, right? So I'm looking at positive 12 over the positive 2. That's equal to 6. Okay, let's test it. So again, take your thing, take your function, plug in 6 everywhere you see then your x. All right, squared minus then 10 times 6, and then minus 24. So go to your calculator. 2 then times 6 cubed. Okay, then plus 7 times 6 squared. Minus 10 times 6, and then minus 24. Boom. Oh, 600. That does not equal 0. 600 is not 0. And therefore, this would be the remainder if you were to basically divide the factor of 6, which would be x minus 6, into this polynomial. That's the remainder theorem. If you want help with the remainder theorem, just take a look at some of the videos of this playlist. I have about, I don't remember, 10, 12 videos on it. So if this value does not equal 0, then it's not going to be the value you tested is not a 0. And notice 6 was not a 0. It did not cross the x-axis, the graph, right? When we look back at the graph, it didn't cross the x-axis at x equals 6 over here. So that's how you would apply the rational zero theorem to find the real zeros. I mean, it's a little bit crazy if you start to think about it, right? All these possibilities you're going to have to test. Right. So, thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I do hope this video helps. And if it did, like and subscribe. And tell maybe some of your classmates. We'd love to help more students. All right? We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for all the support and all the love you guys send via the comments. It really means a lot to us. It provides us the motivation to keep going. So thank you. I'll see you in the next video. And by the way, check out our channel because we don't only have math, we have physics and chemistry as well. We have thousands of videos out there. We want to help you through your class. Take care.